Hi, I'm Rachel, and this is my MaybeMidrash TBR for 2023. The MaybeMidrash Readathon was brought to booktube by Jason at Old Blues Chapters and Verse, Felicia at Little Prairie Library. Some other people like Steve Donahue have also taken turns hosting it in the past. It's not happening officially this year, but it's the sort of readathon that's actually very self-directed, so people can still do it, so I'm going to still do it. And the purpose of MaybeMidrash is to read serious works of fiction and nonfiction. And I always focus a bit on Judaism, given my own interests, and also with Midrash technically being what it is. It's a part of the Jewish tradition, so I figure it gives me an extra incentive. Going from the definition on the website My Jewish Learning, it says Midrash is an interpretive act, seeking the answers to religious questions, both practical and theological, by plumbing the meaning of the words of the Torah. In the Bible, the root D-R-S-H, well, in Hebrew it's the Dalet Resh and then Shin, is used to mean inquiring into any matter, including occasionally to seek out God's word. Midrash responds to contemporary problems and crafts new stories, making connections between new Jewish, or I guess broader religious realities, and the unchanging biblical text. Which I would argue then means that the text is not meant to be unchanging, and the traditions I always grew up in say that it's a text, no pun intended, that's an evolutionary text. A living text is probably more accurate to what I've heard. It's supposed to be engaged with in new ways as the faith continues into the future. It's not something that's static. It's something that's alive, and that means it has to, apply to where we are now as a people. So anyway, yes, that's what the MaybeMidrash Readathon is all about. So now we're taking part in this modern reading of religion, basically. Or maybe not so modern reading, but my books are technically pretty modern. And I actually, although I am focusing this month for MaybeMidrash on Jewish books, the last book I read technically could fit into this in a Christian mindset. The last book I finished just recently was Transcendent Kingdom by Yad Jesse. And this is a very modern book, just a couple of years old, about a woman who is a postdoc, but also grew up in an evangelical faith, and she's kind of looking toward both. It's a very contemplative novel, not a lot of plot. It's about her experiments in her postdoc career, like the sort of the waning days of them, but she's also doing a lot of soul searching, and I mean that sort of literally because she's missing the surety of her faith as a child, although she also sees some problems with that faith. And the truth is she, both in science and in religion, she is searching for a sense of meaning, particularly centering around her brother's death, who he died of a heroin overdose. He was addicted, and her research in her postdoc career is in fact about trying to pin down what addiction is in the brain. But I think in both her science and religion, she is buttressing up against the idea of meaning and the ways that both science and religion offer that meaning and don't offer that meaning. So it's a really fascinating book, and certainly very serious about religion, so I would suggest giving it a go. But now into my future reading. Hopefully my camera will stay with me. We're sort of on the last legs here of the battery. But anyway, very appropriately for my nonfiction pick, I'm reading Dershuni, Contemporary Women's Midrash. And I remember when I first heard of this book last year, I knew I'd want to read it for this readathon this year. So I'm very excited that I am very technically, literally reading modern Midrash from these Israeli female scholars. It's especially moving because so much religious practice historically has been closed off to women in Judaism. So this really does feel like a reclamation, a chance to take a seat at the table, not only for modern issues, but for female issues from a female perspective. So I'm very excited to hear what they have to say and what they have to talk about. And then for my fiction pick, I'm going with Abomination by Ashley Goldberg, which I actually just held up in my recent book haul video. This goes on the other gender side, I guess. It's about two men who were part of an ultra-orthodox school in Melbourne, Australia. So we're taking a look at the Australian Jewish community, so I'm excited for this global feel. And anyway, in the school there was a scandal, and the two main characters respond to it very differently. And as they grow up, one becomes a rabbi in the school and one becomes an avowed atheist who, I believe, leaves the religion. And then it's about them coming together later in life, I guess, to see their fault lines, where they diverge and where they're similar and where to go from here. So also looking forward to this one. This is not widely available in the US, so very happy to have my hands on it. And rounding out my international feel for this readathon, one thing that Jason introduced last year was the idea of also watching a serious religious film. And what do you know, in May, in my local DC area, the JCC puts on their arts festival, the JXJ festival, they call it, for movies and music and other artistic endeavors. And so out of their film lineup, there's this film called Where Life Begins, which is, I believe, a joint French and Italian film, and it's about a religious Jewish girl who comes to Calabria, to beautiful southern Italy, because she and her family are harvesting citrons, I think technically etrogs in the religious terminology, which is used for the holiday of Sukkot. So they're coming there to harvest them, and she meets up with a young farmer there, and I think they basically find their own fault lines about who they are as people and what they want out of their lives. So I don't know if it's going to be romance or not. But I'm looking forward to going to this film, especially because I think I'm going to be going with my dad, which is very exciting. I'm bringing him up from Baltimore. My dad is very into our Italian heritage, and I love going to this Jewish film fest, so I'm excited to spend the time with him. And that about covers it for me now. You can find links to these books and to the movie and to my review of this book linked down below. And speaking of this book, this was also my page 112 tag pick for April. Every month I play the page 112 tag, where I choose randomly 3 of the books on my unread physical shelves. I read page 112 with you, and then I pick one to join my month's TBR. And now that I've officially finished my April pick, I think I am ready to go on to choosing my May page 112 tag picks. So stay tuned, that should be my next video. I hope you're all having fun with your May reading plans, whether you're taking part in readathons, officially or unofficially, doing your own thing. I'd love to hear about it. Thanks so much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next time.